His and her movie reviews. James Bond Spectre was awesome.
It was very pretty looking.
Yes. The opening action scene was amazing. I think the way that they choreograph these things is that the director has like a bunch of G.I. Joes, and he's like, yeah, and then this happens, and then they're on the outside of a helicopter punching each other. And yeah, I think that's how they choreograph it, because it's ridiculous, but I had fun with it. The song, the opening song, I thought was kind of lame. I didn't think it was very good. I thought the Adele one was better with Skyfall.
She won an Oscar for that, so obviously it was pretty good. I liked how they had a few references to the older James Bond shows. This Bond was supposed to be Bond at the beginning, and then we start with his story and we see how he progresses. And with this last movie, we kind of see how he comes into some of the older, earlier Bond shows. So I feel like with this Bond movie, we've gone full circle, and it was fun to see. I really liked seeing how they tied it in with the earlier Bond story. And so that was fun. I liked some of the references. There were a few parts that were funny that we left at the theater, laughed out loud in. That was enjoyable. Bond was sassy.
Mm-hmm.
Bond was his snarky self, and that was really fun. The opening scene was really cool looking. It was visually very interesting and very pretty.
We saw it in IMAX, and it was so loud that it hurt my ears, which was amazing, because that's what I want when I go to an IMAX movie. Also, something to note, that the aspect ratio does not open up when you're in the IMAX version, so it stays this way the whole time. It doesn't open up for certain scenes, like movies like The Dark Knight. So you don't necessarily need to see it in IMAX, although it was big and loud and beautiful. Some of the stuff that they tacked on from the first two movies with Daniel Craig, it just felt kind of tacked on. Like, instead of coming up with their own screenplay for this movie, it was like just throwing in references from the first two movies.
I completely agree. The script was in parts very cliche. There were parts that you were just like, that wasn't a surprise at all. I totally saw that coming because they've done it before. And while it was fun that they had all these references to the older James Bond movies, to a certain point it almost felt like they were just stealing the plot from older James Bond movies. And they tried to take this story somewhere that it just didn't work for me. They were being lazy with their script, and they wanted to have a wow factor by borrowing off of the other movies, and it just fell flat. It didn't work.
Yeah, I'd say for 2/3 of this movie, I really didn't care about what was happening or the people in it. The action scenes were cool, but in between was kind of meh. But then towards the end, a certain thing happens, and then I started caring, and then I was totally invested for the rest of the way.
Unfortunately, that didn't happen for me. I didn't really care about anybody the whole time. There were a few things, though, that seemed very out of character for a Bond movie that happened in this, and that's fun, and it kind of gives you a surprise. But
Dave Bautista, I think that's how you say his name. I thought he was awesome. Well, his fighting was, because that's all he did.
He had one word.
Yeah, but
He had no lines.
His fighting was really cool. So it was a close quarter combat scene, which was really fun. I did not like Monica Bellucci in it. Like, as an actress, she was fine, but I didn't like her character. I didn't like how Bond interacted with her character. I thought it was a bit Roger Moore-ish on a part, and you could probably guess what part that is. I loved the ending of this movie. Loved it. But I feel like the next movie is just going to ruin it. But I really, really liked the ending. It was refreshing. Christoph Waltz as the bad guy, I think he did a really good job. He was very creepy. I thought he did a way better job than Javier from Skyfall. So the use of pistols in this movie, pistols are pretty much magical in this movie, and I don't mean in a good way. And I think expounding on that anymore would be spoiler alert. So I'm not going to, but there's a few things that happen with a pistol that almost took me out of it. All the other gun stuff with the assault rifles I thought was really awesome. But there's a few things with the pistol that are not awesome.
Bond almost has superpowers. He's an excellent marksman. He knows a ton of languages. He can fly planes and helicopters, and he's...
All of which I'm fine with.
Maybe you could write it off and say that he's a genius, but it's just sometimes it's like, oh, okay, so he can do this now too. Yes. And he can do that now too. Oh, and let's not forget that he can also do this other thing too.
Yeah, I like that about it. I think it just means he's really highly trained. And plus he's kind of older. He's not like 20-something, so he could have been learning all that stuff his whole life. His whole spy life. Which I guess has only been since Casino Royale in this iteration. Well, maybe he learned some of it before he became a 00. Yeah, I didn't like anything with Monica Bellucci. Oh, everything with the guy that plays M was awesome. Every scene that he was in. And also you get to see Bond's apartment. I'm not going to say anything about it, but I loved it. Because it made sense for his character.
Yes, it did.
But overall, I really wasn't expecting much, which is sad, but I liked it. About halfway through, I was almost ready to just check out. There was 1 second where I'm like, I could just leave here, but I'm like, no, I'm going to finish this. But the way that it all wrapped up made me actually really like it.
I really liked Q's character in this one, and I felt that the other characters, Q and M and Moneypenny, were more fleshed out. I felt like they were real people in this movie, whereas in the movies before they were just kind of
caricatures.
They were just kind of there in the background. You didn't really know who they were. It was straight up Bond's film. This one showed more that he had a team with him, that he had his superiors and he had people who were helping him find information and help him do things. And I liked that. I do not like Bond. I especially don't like him with women. I don't like how he has at least 2 women in every movie.
While I was watching this, I just couldn't help thinking that I like Tom Cruise movies better. I like Mission Impossible 4 and 5 better. I know they're lighter hearted and they're a little bit different. But while I was watching this, and you've seen this in the trailer, but it's like, we're going to close down the 00 program. That's like right out of Rogue Nation. I know Rogue Nation was originally going to come out in December, but still, it's like the same thing. And then the car chase in Spectre, I was kind of bored during. There was a few cool parts in it, but it's like, yay, we can drive fast in a straight line. I was just thinking how cool the car chase is in Jack Reacher while I was watching this movie.
This movie really dragged. There were times when you were watching and you would just kind of zone out. And
I didn't zone out. I was zoned in.
It honestly seemed very unevenly paced. Like, it would go, and then it would slow way down. And then an action scene would happen, and then it would slow way down. I couldn't tell I was bored.
Well, I could hear you rolling your eyes, like, every 5 minutes.
I wasn't rolling my eyes. I got bored during the movie. So, for me, I would pass. I wouldn't watch this movie again. If someone put it in, I would probably do something else while the movie was playing.
I think it's keeper. I think it's a good 4th to the first 3 Daniel Craig movies. I think it brings the character, almost finishes his arc that was started in Casino Royale. So I think it's a keeper. It's not my favorite. I'd probably watch any of the new Mission Impossibles or Jack Reacher before it, but I'd still watch it again.
I don't like how Bond handled his women in this movie. It kind of upset me.
His and her movie reviews, James Bond Spectre.